that help? Is that helping?
It's good to see you guys.
Oh, this is horrible.
Are you okay?
It's not showing up on when I talk now at all.
No, are you sure? Is it because I'm right here on the
Are we going to roll
microphone?
this episode or what?
What's up?
Nerdy, unqualified, and probably indistinguishable from rambling. Welcome to the A&D show.
Hello and welcome to the A&D show. I'm David.
I'm Austin, episode 2.
Episode 2. You guys made it. Here we are. Episode 2. So, first things first. Before we get into our episode, we've got a lot to talk about today. But before we get there, I've seen these videos and I don't really know what to think. Apparently, Elon Musk has shot the new Tesla Model X into outer space. And I'm not talking like orbiting Earth or like pinging off the moon. I'm talking deep space. Apparently, from what I understand, he was trying to put it in a geosynchronous orbit or something around Mars, and their calculations were wrong.
Major Tom to ground control.
Right, and apparently it has just gotten lost, and now it's going to be floating in outer space until it inevitably collides with some kind of crazy thing and blows up.
I had read online that he was trying to make a cheaper way to get into space.
What?
Apparently he was trying to find a more cost-effective way for space travel, and apparently it's in a Tesla, as it turns out.
Okay, so like a $140,000 car in a rocket that costs $2 billion shooting into outer space.
I can't afford a seat in a Tesla.
I can't even afford to look at a Tesla.
My word.
My goodness. All right, well, I just thought I'd bring that up. That was really interesting to me. So anyway, I guess we'll just see how Elon does in his Model X. And apparently also, just another side note, there is an actual like mannequin in the front seat. So if aliens come across this thing.
Major Tom.
Oh, it is. Is it Major Tom? Is that what they named it?
Major Tom
To ground control. I don't know the song. Anyway, so I guess we'll just see. We'll just see what happens.
I love it.
All right.
Why
So
not?
today's episode's really special. We are talking about something that is near and dear to many people's hearts.
Puppies.
Not puppies.
Oh.
Star Wars. Dun, dun, dun.
Also cool. I was hoping for puppies, but we'll discuss.
We'll put puppies in next week.
We'll do Star Wars.
Wait, we're not doing an episode next week. We'll put it in next week's episode.
We'll talk about dogs.
Dogs. All dogs, all puppies. That's not nerdy enough, is it?
It is for me.
We're certainly not qualified to talk about dogs, that's for sure. Maybe you are.
I have
a
2
couple.
dogs. I have 2 dogs.
I don't have any dogs. I live alone. All right. Let's get into it. So, first things first, it begs the question, when we talk about Star Wars, it seems like the first thing everybody wants to talk about is, what do you, as a person, consider to be the best movie versus the worst movie? Now, before we get into this, I understand some of our listeners are very opinionated about this, and rightly so. Everybody has their own opinion. I was talking to a lady at work today. You might know her. We work together. And she was telling me how every movie, other than the original 3, is worthless. Absolutely useless. She said the first trilogy, the first 3, or the prequel trilogy, she's like, the prequel trilogy, when I think about those, I just don't think about them. Because they don't exist to me. They are dead to me. And I know there are people out there that would agree with her. I'm not necessarily a purist in that regard. What do you think?
Now, full disclosure, please. We're all nerds in some sense. If I mess up the canon, please don't crucify me. Okay.
Too late. They're already crucifying you right now.
I feel like, and that's my problem with Star Wars nerds like me. I'm one of them, but I mean, I'm always I've never been one to knock someone down for messing up the finite detail of the canon,
Right.
If you get something wrong, like, I know what you mean. Like, I get
like, were the dice there?
Yeah.
Weren't they there? Who really
Unbearable.
knows? Were they real
That's
dice, or were they?
That's why people hate nerds so much is because we are absolutely awful. We are the worst people in the world.
This is true. Nerds are the worst.
I love almost all the movies. Almost all the movies, which we'll get into. My almost, but I enjoy. I mean, they're fun, and I mean the story. Even the episode 1, 2, and 3. They weren't gems. They weren't Scorsese films by any means, but I mean they were.
This is true.
They were watchable.
Well, here's the thing: when you determine the watchability of the film, it's based on whether or not people watched it. And here's the thing: whenever they made The Phantom Menace, which was a menace of a film, and they put it out to the public, it had enough of a good reception from the viewers that they had enough money to make another one, and another one, and another one.
And that's the problem. Is that like episode 1? I mean, it was a hot mess. Like let's be honest. Like, episode 1 wasn't what anybody wanted to see.
Let's not even get into midichlorians. I mean, come on.
I mean, I remember when it was getting ready to come out, my grandma bought me the book, like the adapted from the Star Wars Episode 1 film. And anyone knows I don't like to read. Books aren't my thing. I wish I was a reader, but I'm just not. Mm-hmm. I read this book, and I read the book before I saw the movie, and I remember thinking, I'm like, oh my gosh, Jar Jar Binks will be the coolest character in the whole wide world.
Now let's just pause right there for a second.
I was a child,
because everyone listening to this, all 12 of you, are going to immediately cringe once hearing the words Jar Jar Binks and coolest character in the world in the same sentence, because it is widely accepted the exact opposite of that. That Jar Jar and his floppy ears and his stupid numb tongue.
Oh, me so Jar Jar.
Stop. Just stop. That he is easily the worst character ever conceived by George and all of his idiotic compatriots.
No. We'll discuss this
later.
We'll
discuss this later.
I have issues with characters.
But what is your favorite? What is your best movie? What's your favorite movie of all? What is there? 10 of them now?
Yes. Yeah.
No, 9.
9.
The 10th. The episode 9, the 10th film. Oh, there's 11. Because episode 9, the 10th film, and the Solo film, have not come out yet.
Well, we're super prepared for this.
We probably should have prepared a little more. It's okay.
Actually, I'm gonna start with my worst.
Okay, go ahead.
Because this opens up a lot of doors.
This is going to open up a lot of wounds in people too. I just know, because we've talked about this.
We've talked about this. I with everything within me, hated every single second of Rogue One.
Now,
I hated it.
Because here's the thing. We may have just lost our entire listening audience, because,
people were mad that Rogue One wasn't nominated for Academy Awards.
Right.
And I hated it. I thought it was terrible.
Okay.
I thought there was so much lead up with to the major plot point. Some parts of it drug way too slow.
Yeah.
Parts of it were it was just, I don't know. Me personally, I didn't like the story at all. I hated the story.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have your big hook at the end where you see, spoiler alert, you see Vader walking through the corridor. So people like,
right.
I thought it was a bad movie. I hated every second of it. I didn't think it was. I tried watching it again, thinking, well, maybe I was just being too hard on it. No, that wasn't the case. I hated it more the second time I watched it, and it wasn't good.
Well, let me just jump in here, because we were talking. You and I were talking with your brother-in-law actually the other day, and he illuminated us to his mindset about the film, and he said that film, I may be misquoting him, but neither here nor there. That film, according to him, was the most redeemable part of that film was the fact that it was that it had that scene in it, which I can agree with. It sets
up for the whole story,
right? So I don't like it. I mean, I think the fact that they were able to take a footnote from the original trilogy and make something out of it. I thought that was good, and I thought it was cool to see a different story than what we've been given now 8 times in a row. Because it seems like, and let's be honest, I mean, when it comes to original storyline, they had it for episodes 4, 5, and 6.
Right.
For episodes 1, 2, 3, and 7 and 8, and probably 9, they kind of lost out on that.
Well,
they're not
at
pushing
that point,
the boundaries of story.
At that point, storytelling, they were just throwing darts at the board. Like, "Oh, you're going to do, just nail it out." And just,
and now
how do we tell this story?
Right, and now they're kind of just rehashing. So, in my opinion, the best one, and this is going to be super conflicting for you, the best one, in my opinion, has been the Rogue One, just because of how different it was. Now, my least favorite of all of them, oh man, you might disagree, and you might actually have the opposite opinion of this one too. My least favorite of all of them is Episode 3, Revenge of the Smith. And I'll tell you why. It's not unjustified. It's not necessarily because of bad writing. It's not because of CGI and overuse of it. It's because of Hayden Christensen. Because he is the worst person on the planet. He ruined what could have been so much better. And, Natalie Portman, she's a Grammy-nominated, or not Grammy-nominated, Oscar-nominated. There you go. Oscar-nominated actress, and she's done a lot of great work, but that part was so wrong for her. Anakin, you're breaking my heart.
I won't disagree with you. The episode 3 was bad. We've talked. There are parts of it that I loved, parts of it that I hated. See, when we talk worst, I always get hung up on episode 1, and I get hung up on pod racing.
Yeah,
that was
worst
terrible.
Or best?
Worst.
See, that was one of the coolest things in that movie to me.
The problem was I hated young Anakin.
Okay.
Now I also hated middle-aged Anakin, but young Anakin was terrible. like child Anakin. I mean, it was. And
he wasn't a great actor. They failed. I think the best thing about episode 1, honestly, the truth is, Liam Neeson's character.
Amazing.
It was great. And Darth Maul, but yet it was one of the best and worst things, because it was great because Darth Maul, but it was horrible because they immediately killed him.
Yeah, I think people like dumping on episode 1, 2, and 3, and people are going to.
Yeah.
People are going to knock it down. Were they Hall of Fame movies? Nope, not even close.
Not even close.
But they're definitely watchable. And I think it was a couple years ago. I went back and watched episode 1, 2, and 3. Before Fatherhood, and I remember I'm like these aren't terrible. I mean, they weren't great by any means, but I mean they're definitely watchable. There's some good fight scenes, some good battles. I remember that I loved the Darth Maul fight scene, aside from the little laser wall. I'm like, oh, this is so dumb. But there were parts in that second trilogy that weren't terrible. But I would say for my favorite movie out of the however many,
the 8 canon. Well, I guess they're all canon.
Well, yeah, they're all part of the story.
Yeah.
I loved episode 4 just because for me, for me, it's that was the first one that I ever saw. And I remember seeing it. It would have been, how old grade was it? It would have been as 9th grade math with Mr. Gear. We watched Star Wars. We had some breakout thing. I think it was 9th grade. Mm-hmm. Mr. Gear, if you're listening, which you're probably not, but if you are, thank you for that. We watched Star Wars. I remember, we got to pick a movie. So pick what movie you want to watch. And I'm like, I'll give Star Wars a try. It was like that, or like I don't know, I think Grease, and I'm like, I'm not a musical person. So I remember watching that, and like that was the first one that I ever saw, and I just totally hooked.
And it was number 4, right? A New Hope.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was for me. I was instantly drawn into this world of Star Wars, and I purely for me, just based on a purity standpoint and what the movie means to me.
Yeah.
4 is my favorite. Just from that's where my love began.
Sure.
I would have that would have been 20-ish years ago, and I fell in love with the movie. It was amazing.
Right. Well, now that we have definitively determined which of the movies is the best,
Rogue One's awful,
and which one of them is the worst, according to us, who are completely unqualified to talk about any of this.
I'm not Siskel or Ebert. I just have hot takes.
Right. So let's move on to another hotly debated topic. What is the coolest ship? Now before we get into this, I want to preface by saying coolest ship other than the one we all immediately gravitate towards, the Millennium Falcon, right?
Yes.
Everybody says coolest ship in Star Wars, Millennium Falcon, immediately, right? But if you were to pick another ship in the entire Star Wars saga, the entire thing, all 85 films that they have put out there, and even the television show, the animated Clone Wars show or whatever it was called that I didn't watch. If you were to choose any ship, one ship that was the coolest besides the Falcon, what would it be?
Well, I was always kind of partial to the AT-ATs,
Which one was that?
the walking things.
Okay.
Because I thought they were cool
The
looking.
giant mechanical goats.
Yeah, I thought they were fun because I think
Camels.
that's something different. I think immediately people think about the Falcon, the
X-Wing
TIE
fighter.
fighters, the X-wing. It's just something different. I always liked. I wanted one as a kid, not like a pet. Probably big for a pet, but they made these toys that were they were so cool.
Yeah.
Now, as far as actual like in space, I always loved the TIE interceptors. I thought they just looked cool. Like you had you had the big circle in the center, then you had your huge wings on the outside. I thought it was fun.
Yeah.
I thought I thought those were really cool looking.
One of the things that I really enjoyed, and I guess this may, to some of our listeners, this may come across as heresy, but I actually really liked the Naboo fighter. That was a slick looking. It was like a hot rod in space, and I mean yellow, horrible choice of color. But
Was that the car that Liam Neeson was driving?
no, that was the big chrome turd. The one I'm talking about is the one
Chrome turd.
the big chrome turd. The one I'm talking about is the one that R2 and Anakin get in, the little
Oh, yeah,
yellow
yeah,
one
yeah,
with the
yeah,
two
okay,
big
yeah,
engines on
right.
the side. I really liked that one. If I were to choose any other ship, I would probably choose the what was the big Star Destroyer that Vader was on?
Star Destroyer.
Star Destroyer.
It's called Star Destroyer, isn't it? I think I'm pretty sure it's called a Star Destroyer. I'm pretty sure of it.
Can't remember, but the big black one, the
Yeah.
one that's like a whole continent floating in space. I really liked that one. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
So coolest ship for you would be, what was it again? The TIE Fighter?
The TIE Fighter?
No, that was
No.
It was one you liked.
No. Well, I said I like the AT-ATs a lot.
AT-AT.
Yeah.
And then for me, probably the Naboo fighter. The AT-ATs. Now, have you seen the trailer for the new number 8, Last Jedi? They've kind of brought those back a
Yes,
little bit, but
yeah.
they kind of look like a gorilla. Those
Yeah.
are pretty cool. I'd like to see what those are going to be like.
I just I think it's just something different. It's a different answer. Just
Sure.
have something grounded like that, and having something that's going to be a little less,
Stereotypical.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay. All right. So with that, we're going to take a quick break for what I like to call "What's That Sound?" All right. Put your applause away. You back in the back. Hey! Put your applause away.
I got
Okay.
3 out of 4 this last time.
3 out of 4 of these last time. We only got 3 this time.
Good.
So, and they're all Star Wars themed. So be ready. So, okay, you ready for the first one?
Let's do it.
This is going to be great. What is this sound? All right. Is that sound the sound of me cracking my knuckles just before I beat up Billy Borden for being a punk? The sound of a real bad mamma jamma racking his 9mm before he busts a cap? Or the sound of the key to the Millennium Falcon turning to start the hyperdrive?
Cracking a gun.
Cracking a gun. And for the win, you got it. That's correct.
One. Boom.
That's correct. For the record, the sound of the Millennium Falcon key turning would probably just be the sound of Wang jangling dice. All right, so this next sound, hold on, let me turn this around. Here we go, number 2. All right, is that the sound of a dusty fart?
Sorry, Mom.
The sound of the newest entry into the Star Wars creatureverse, the Porg, or the sound of some punk being annoying in art class and running his finger up and down the spine of a spiral notebook.
Spiral notebook, but for the record, the Porg, I want one.
You do.
I want
it's like a Furby. It's like a living Furby.
It is. I'm afraid that I'm really hoping that the Porg is not basically the next Jar Jar, where it's just like, oh my gosh, stop.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see.
I digress.
All right, number 3. You're 2 for 2 right now, so you're going to be the What's That Sound champion once again if you get this last one. Now, this last one's pretty tough, so you got to listen real close. That one's tough. You want to hear it again?
Yeah.
Okay, here it goes. All right, so is that the sound of a samurai sharpening his katana, the sound of a sliding door, or the sound of Darth Vader trying to breathe with a sinus infection?
I say it's a sliding door, but it sounded like a knife sharpening. But it's a sliding door or door.
It's a sliding door. Man, all right, give it up for him, everybody. He is the king of What's That Sound?
2 weeks in a row.
Let's hear those applause! All right. Bringing it back down, just for the record, the sound of Darth Vader breathing would be that mixed with lots of mucus, lots of mucusy sounds, and a whole lot of seepage.
It's gross. It's gross.
All right, with that, let's pick up back where we were at earlier, and let's move into our last few topics of the episode. Now, we've talked about the best and worst movie, and we've talked about the coolest ship. Now, we didn't talk about the lamest ship, because there's a bunch, let's be honest.
There's a whole lot.
There's a whole bunch.
There's a lot more lame
Pretty
than
much,
cool.
let's be honest. Let's just backtrack for a second, because I want to make this definitive statement. You heard it here first. The lamest ship in all of the Star Wars universe, in my opinion, and the opinion of Dave, is that stupid planet-sized piece of crap that's floating around blowing up planets. Like, that is the most impractical. That is the stupidest.
It's number one, you can't turn that thing very well. Number two, it's just so big.
And it barely moves. It's got its own gravity. It's so huge. And it takes them tons and tons and tons of whatever metal it's made of.
Talk about a gun on that bad boy. Shoot.
I mean...
That's a good gun on that thing. That thing will blow a planet.
It's a good gun, but look at its weakness.
Yeah.
A pothole, a muskrat-sized hole.
Yeah.
That if you get a thing in it, the whole thing is gone.
Yeah.
Like, that is the most impractical and ridiculous. Now, I mean, if you consider Rogue One and you consider that storyline and that inclusion into it, okay, then it makes sense. But
wasn't there always just like really weird like weaknesses?
Yeah, in a lot of things.
It's like terrible.
It kind of reminds me of the Power Rangers. The what are those guys? The
Zords.
The Zords, where you just like. I remember watching an episode of the original Power Rangers, and the pink Power Ranger or the yellow one, I can't remember which one. She was like, "Just hit the Z on their chest and they disappear." And I was just like, "This is like Star Wars."
The clay people.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, there was horrible. Yeah, absolutely horrible. It wasn't
good. I remember.
You just tap this little medallion, and they're like, "Ooh," and they just shrivel up into powder. Anyway, I digress. So let's move on to what we think is the coolest. I'm not gonna branch it out all the way to weapon, but we're gonna narrow it down. The coolest saber. Now there have been a lot of these, a whole bunch of various colors. One of which. We've only seen once by one person, and that's the purple saber. That's Samuel Jackson, and that was because he specifically requested it as like a demand for him even taking the part.
The role.
So, which we'll just leave that one out of it. But I mean, it's kind of cool, but we'll just leave that one out. So, of all the lightsabers, I'd have to say, in my opinion, I'd have to say that the only one that when I saw it strike up, that I was like, "Oh, this is awesome," was Kylo Ren's saber in Force Awakens, because of what has been hotly debated as one of the most idiotic features. But that hilt guard with the blades coming out of it, that is so dumb. Yet at the same time, it is so awesome.
It looks cool.
Yeah, I mean that's the whole deal. It looks cool.
But the problem is it's wrong. because the best lightsaber was easily Darth Maul's.
The
Having
double-ended.
the double-ended,
that
but you take
disconnect.
apart.
Yeah.
I mean, if he knew how to fight well, he would have crushed those Jedi.
Yeah,
He
but
would have taken over the world.
he just stunk. That was
yeah,
what it came
that was
down
the problem. He wasn't good with, he should have been in Flag Corps more.
to. Yeah.
Work on that spinny spin.
Yeah.
No,
I'm surprised as bad as he was, he didn't just cut
think-
himself
think-
in half.
Right. Spoiler, man. Although I guess the film's been out for what,
It's
47
from
years.
2001.
Yeah.
Okay, if they haven't seen
But
it
I
by
mean,
now,
you got. It was a cool. That was because it was always just here's a sword. You know,
Right.
so when episode 1 came out, like let's make some variants here, and I mean it was a really cool design. At the time, I mean they didn't have the technology back then to make a lightsaber that they did with Kylo Ren probably, but
True.
I thought it was a really cool design, having being double sided, and it was just different.
Yeah. Now, one that I have seen in episode, I want to say 2, might have been 3. I think it was 3 actually. What was the guy? Darth something. I can't remember his name. Anyway, the guy that was the apprentice of the Emperor right before. Everybody that's listening has already called the name.
I know.
So, yeah, that guy, listener, his lightsaber, I think it was red, but he had that ergonomic handle. You know what I'm talking about? The one that was
Darth Sidious.
Darth Sidious, that's the one.
Darth Sidious.
He had the curved handle that, like, fits in your hand kind of like a gun.
Yeah.
And I was like, now that is a classy weapon. Because he's fighting, like,
Right.
yeah,
He's
fencing with that
yeah.
thing. And I'm just like, man, this guy, he's floating like a butterfly,
Hairy.
stinging like a bee,
Hairy.
right? He's got the...
I like it.
I really like that one too. But I think for me, that even as idiotic and just ridiculous as it is, I think Kylo Ren's takes the cake just
Yeah.
because of how cool it looks.
Well, the hilt is. I mean, in any real battle scenario, that hilt's going to hurt you more than it's going to hurt somebody else.
Yeah. Well, and I'm basing.
But the question is the coming out the side, is it actually the lightsaber, or is it just kind of like, is it like fumes from the
I think that I've heard it said both ways. I think that I've heard it said that it's just like exhaust ports, that apparently he didn't build it correctly, or he didn't have the right stuff to build it, and so it just ports out the side, which doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. But then I've also heard it said that he's got triple crystals in there, and that it will project out the side 2 additional blades, which is pretty cool, very impractical.
Yeah.
But I just remember seeing the trailer for Force Awakens, like 4 years ago, whenever they first released the very first teaser trailer.
Has it been 4 years?
I think so.
Holy cow!
Been close to it. Yeah, almost 5 years ago.
Oh.
And so, but I remember seeing, and you don't know who he is, but you can see him wearing his helmet.
Yeah.
And they're standing in the woods in the snow, and all of a sudden you just see this blade,
Yeah.
and and it's got the hilt. Oh man!
So
I
cool.
just remember thinking to
Yeah.
myself, "This is going to be
I
amazing."
need this. Yeah.
And then he was super wimpy.
Put it in my veins. Just watch it now. Right.
Right. All right. So that being said, knowing what the coolest lightsaber was, let's talk about who the most powerful Jedi was.
Samuel L. Jackson. Hands
Samuel
down.
Jackson?
Samuel L. Jackson.
Why?
Because it's Samuel L. Jackson. Samuel L. Jackson can do whatever he wants to.
This is true. He has been in every movie ever made.
Samuel L.
Literally
Jackson.
every single movie.
I tell you, who's not the strongest is the younglings.
You're such a psychopath. I can't even handle this right
Listen, you had one guy against a bunch of Jedis, and granted they're younglings, but
They're
he couldn't.
practically children. Literally, actually children. Did you see that one kid flinch real hard when he strikes his lightsaber? That kind of cracked
He
me
knew
up.
it was coming.
You've heard it here first, everyone. Austin is an absolute psychopath when it comes to Star Wars.
Yeah,
Anybody gets
I
in
got
his way,
problems.
even children, saber him to death.
And this is gonna sound morbid, but I've told you before. That's one of my favorite scenes of episodes 1, 2, and 3. Simply because that showed the complete turn into Darth Vader. That showed like the lengths he's willing to go to to turn evil,
Now-
to turn the dark side.
That was one of only, in the entire saga, one of only 2 moments where Darth Vader shows his menace.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest. He wasn't really all that intimidating. He's like, I'm going to choke you with my fingers. You know, that was pretty much it. But then there was that one moment in, what was it, episode 3?
Yep.
That one moment when he kills all those kids. And then there was the only other moment where he shows his menace is in the movie You Hate.
Yeah.
Whenever he strikes his lightsaber up in the dark chasm of that ship, and the next thing you know, he's like killing dudes. Oh man, I had chills when I watched that.
No?
That movie, scene was, if that movie was a disaster, that scene was worth it.
That was a good scene to I don't know, kind of. I just my detest for Rogue One is so thick that I can't get past it.
I feel like it's entirely possible that they built the whole movie just so they could have that scene.
Probably.
And I wouldn't put it past them. And I don't blame them. I don't blame them at all.
How to make this movie? We'll just make stuff up.
So,
okay, gotcha.
So, and that's kind of an interesting topic too, talking about the most powerful Jedi, because everybody's like, Darth Vader, instantly. Darth Vader, of course it's Darth Vader. Look at him, Darth Vader. He's wearing that mask.
I think what the question would come down to is in a huge battle royale,
right?
Who wins? And I don't know that answer. I mean, it's Samuel L. Jackson. Yeah. But I don't know. I mean, it's because,
I don't know that answer, Samuel, but I know who it is.
No, I honestly don't know that I would be able to say who the quote unquote most powerful Jedi is, because I don't think that there's a good measuring stick for that.
Right.
No. Because at this point, everyone in some form or another has been defeated, except for Rey.
This is true. Now, I have heard rumors that Luke, coming back in Episode 8, does some super dope things that are like next level.
It's like 900 years old. All right.
This is true. But I think, to me, from my view, the most powerful, probably, as dumb as it sounds, Yoda.
Well, he was, I mean, yeah.
Just because, man, what a liar that guy was. He's like tripping around on his little cane.
What was it? Was it episode 2 or with that huge fight scene? Or was that episode 3?
I think it was episode 2 that he fought Darth Sidious.
Yeah,
and that was where Anakin's arm got chopped off.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Such a good one.
It was a good one. Even as bad as the CG was, it was still good. So, all right. So let's talk about then. We know the most powerful Jedi. We know the coolest lightsaber. We know what the coolest ship is, and what the best and worst movies were. So let's talk about our number one favorite thing to talk about with Star Wars: who the most hated character in the entire saga is. And this,
there are so many. There really are so many. I mean, the easy one's Jar Jar.
Jar Jar,
right.
It was one of those things like you. I saw the trailer for that film, and I watched it, and I'm thinking to myself, cool, new characters, that'd be really neat.
Right.
And I thought that the was it Gungar? Gungans, his race.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I thought that the Gungan technology was really cool. Like, their big shield and their really rolly ball things that are like EMPs in a ball. I thought those were really cool. And the fact that they lived underwater, I thought that was pretty neat. But as a whole, what an absolutely frustratingly annoying race of creatures.
I have so many that I hate.
Go on. What's your?
I got Fode and Bede.
Fode and Bede.
The podcast announcers.
Oh yeah.
And here comes young Anakin Skywalker.
The two-headed thing?
Yes, it was terrible.
Oh, don't forget about what's the guy? Sebulba.
Sebulba.
And the stupid pig nosed guy that ran the chop shop. I can't remember what his name was.
That Watto.
Yeah, he was annoying too. Yeah. Pretty much everybody in that movie was annoying.
There were too many. There were a lot more bad characters, regrettably. Than characters that you're like, oh, these are great characters.
Like, not even Anakin's mother was good.
No.
Even she was completely forgettable and horrible.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to care whenever she dies later, and you don't.
You had Unkar Plutt, the character that Simon Pegg played in
Episode 7.
Episode 7.
Yeah, horrible.
Like Simon Pegg.
He's such an A-list actor, such a great talent, and you wasted him on that horrible.
Yeah.
And then don't forget about the Stormtrooper that had Daniel Craig inside of it.
Ugh.
It's dumb. I actually kind of liked that. I like that little nugget.
Everyone dogged on the Ewoks. I love the Ewoks. Like, what's wrong with the Ewoks?
I mean, there's nothing wrong with Ewoks.
Eh.
Lovable little living teddy bears. It's
I
like
know that-
seeing Paddington like 1,000 times in one movie.
Yeah, I've always
Shameless plug for Paddington, by the way. Great movie.
Your
Both
infatuation
of them.
with
Paddington 1 and 2,
Paddington.
so good.
So weird.
I highly encourage everyone to go watch them.
I've
Immediately,
always
right now.
I've
Turn
always
this on and go
hated
watch them.
I have always hated Snape.
Snape?
I don't like the character.
Who's that now?
Snape.
You talking about Harry Potter?
No, not Snape. No, sorry, I'm not thinking of Snape. No, Snoke. Sorry, Snape.
Snoke.
I'm in the middle of Harry Potter, so Snoke.
I'm like,
I've always hated Snoke.
Yeah, his
Snoke
stupid
is not,
face with half of his chin missing. That's kind of gross.
I mean, he looks like I remember I read an article. Someone was theorizing that Snoke was actually Jar Jar Binks, and all along Jar Jar Binks was this like great like leader and like
Jedi or
negotiator,
Sith master.
yeah.
And
And it's like oh, I don't. It's not.
that would have been a cool plot twist to do something with that character that made us, capitalized upon everybody's already pervasive hatred of him.
Yeah.
But alas, they didn't listen to the masses, and it didn't go anywhere. And he's one of the most hated characters. Now, let me drop this bomb out there. I am personally absolutely revolted by Jabba the Hutt and his entire fatty grossness.
Yeah.
He disgusts me. And those stupid pig things. Okay, so in the original trilogy, in the Return of the Jedi, is that right? Third, fourth,
Yes.
sixth,
Yeah.
episode 6?
Yeah.
Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
I think so.
I think that's right. And see, this is where I'm gonna get killed on, because I always just call them episode 1 through 6, like,
Yeah.
but and then
I think it's called Return of the Jedi.
It's called Return of the Jedi.
Push your glasses.
Yeah, it's Return of the Jedi.
Well, in Return of the Jedi,
Noob.
when Luke goes and Leia both go to, I guess it's on Tatooine, right?
Yeah, I think so.
They go to Tatooine to Jabba's like hut lair thing, and they're trying to rescue the guards that guard the door whenever they go into the compound. Are those stupid pig things that are the most annoying? And I'm like, whenever the one pig got eaten by that giant foot monster, I was like, yes, that's the best thing ever. I'm like, I bet that guy tasted like pork.
I bet. Is it bad that I honestly believe that most of the characters in The Force Awakens are terrible?
You might alienate the other 5% of our audience.
I don't
left,
care.
But
Captain Phasma, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Finn and Poe. Finn and Poe are awful. I'm sorry. The whole it's just awful.
I liked Poe. I liked him. He's a bit helpless and a bit frustrating.
Yeah.
And a bit schoolgirly to me.
I'm gonna fight the powers.
Now Rey, I like her character a little bit.
Because
I think she's attractive.
I've got a guy who's I got a buddy of mine that's like in love with her, and
Right.
so it's exhausting. It's like, oh, she's amazing. I don't I feel like with most of these newer ones, like I don't like a lot of the characters in them.
Right. And the thing about it is that they kind of they're not handling the source material very well. They're killing off all the characters that we like. Well, I guess they're not killing them all off, because some of them are just passing away because they're old and dusty like the fart. But too soon?
Yeah.
But I mean, and I know that it was Harrison's choice to kill his character.
Right.
But what a frustrating and sad thing.
Well, yeah.
Because he was my favorite character. Han Solo has always been my favorite character. And don't even get me started on my reservations about the Solo.
I think it's gonna be terrible.
I'm interested to watch it.
I'm not.
I will watch it.
After Rogue One, I'm going to disavow any
You and half
spin-offs.
the world, probably. But I'm going to watch it. But I got some serious reservations, because I liked Han Solo because of Harrison Ford. Because I felt like it was an intergalactic version of Indiana Jones.
Yeah, I read something talking about like the studio was like really, really like legitimately worried that that's going to be a huge bomb. Like they were like legitimately concerned about how bad it's going to play out.
I think that it's either going to be, there's no middle ground for
Right.
it. It's either going to fail super hard, or it's going to be way better than anybody expects. And I genuinely hope that it's better.
Right.
I really do, because I don't want to see a beloved franchise have a big flop stinker that can only be related closely to the Star Wars Christmas
Yeah.
special. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
Don't even get me
Not-
started on that. So I don't want to see that happen, but
Right.
In all truth, if it does, it's not going to kill the franchise.
No,
I mean they still got episode 9.
Right. I mean, it's still doing fine, but it's still not. I mean, you don't. I mean, if you release a stinker like that, you've got to be seriously conscientious and concerned about the fact that does it become like episode 1, 2, and 3 was, where after a few bombs, nobody cares about the rest of them. I vividly remember when the Matrix came out. The Matrix was this huge, unexpected critical success, and it was I loved the Matrix. I saw the Matrix like 5 times.
Yeah, it's a classic.
And then
wonderful film.
and then here comes Reloaded, and you're jazzed about it, and it's
Horrible.
2.5 hours of garbage.
Yeah.
Now, granted, part of that's because you're telling a 5-hour story, basically because Reloaded and Revelations came out within 6 months of each other, so you're telling a 5-hour long story in just one half of the story. So I understand that, but I mean it was terrible.
Yeah.
And so the numbers for Revelations was terrible.
Yeah. And it wasn't good.
I like Revelations.
The long and short of it is that they killed the franchise
Right.
and any hopes that it
Yeah.
had. Which I've heard I've heard rumors that they might try to reboot it. Which,
But I said that's my only concern with the Solo film. That if it's bad, you ruin future Star Wars films and future attempts at any kind of spin-offs. You got to have them all be good. Like Rogue One critically and critically was a huge success.
right.
The Solo may not be that from what it sounds like.
Yeah, and looking at the trailer, it looks like, because they released that teaser during the
Yeah.
Super Bowl a few weeks ago, and watching that trailer, it looks like it's going to be visually awesome.
Yeah.
But I'm not worried. Like, Lando looks awesome. The other characters look great. The ship looks awesome. They're flying through the tentacles of some giant space
Yeah.
monster. Like, that looks really cool. The only thing that I feel like is going to be the linchpin of whether it falls apart or whether it stands up and is a great solo story, and by solo I mean independent story, is the guy playing Han Solo. And if he doesn't channel his inner Harrison, and he doesn't get the facial expressions and the body language,
You've got to get the charisma down. If
Yeah.
you don't have the charisma that Han Solo had, it's going to just feel forced.
right?
So you've
Pun
got to
intended.
you've got to find a way to make it to come across like Han Solo character did.
Right. The way that, shoot first, talk later kind of guy. And, if you want some help, I know some resources. So if you're listening, whatever your name is, I didn't even do the research to find out.
No, that's the problem. Nobody knows.
He's just some unknown dude.
I legitimately don't know who is playing that character. I really don't.
Let's look it up.
I mean, I just feel like if you're gonna have a movie like that, that you're gonna basically build your reputation on, and you're gonna have this whole, you gotta have somebody better than whoever this guy is.
Alden Ehrenreich,
Right.
wherever the heck that is.
Hey, well, and that's the problem. Alden Ehrenreich. He was in Hail Caesar, apparently, from what I'm finding out. He's literally been in not one movie I've ever heard of.
Yeah. And I don't
Granted,
know.
I'm not into like artsy film. Oh, apparently he was in an episode of CSI, so I may have seen him there.
Wonderful. That qualifies
I just
him.
like I'm not a big artsy film person, so it's like I've apparently never seen this guy before.
Yeah.
In any kind of movie that I've ever heard of.
That's odd. It's supposed to come out May 25th of this year. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so, right?
And they just released the first teaser?
There are several movies that are coming out this year that I've not seen. trailers for, especially in the in the superhero genre that I've not seen trailers for. That's another discussion for another day.
Well, I think that's all the time we have for this episode. Go ahead and wrap it on up. So thank you guys for sticking with us and listening to us banter and chat about Star Wars and everything else related to that. We hope that you enjoyed this episode. If you like this episode, click that subscribe button and tune in for our next episode next month. We got a lot in store for that episode, so tune in, be ready for that. Anything you want to say before you're done?
Rogue One's terrible. Okay?
Rogue One's terrible.
If you truly believe Rogue One is the best film of the Star Wars movies, I don't know that we can be friends. It's terrible.
I don't even know what to say.
So, it's truth. Rogue One's awful.